Hello, hello. Happy Alive. Happy Wednesday. Sorry I missed you guys last week. For IKEA's had some different plans for myself, so I was late, so I could not do it. So I apologize for last week. Hopefully you guys are all well, having a super week, and I am going to do my normal, so I'll answer some questions that have come in throughout the week. Feel free to ask any other questions if you like. Otherwise, I will just answer those. I will also go through the, not to say like a weekly update, but kind of a real estate recap for you guys, as well as some happy news, okay? Thank you, Jocelyn, for popping on, and Mark. And again, I will jibber jab away, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask, okay? So the first question comes from Carolyn and Tom in Stainer. So Carolyn and Tom said, we have a really small yard, but would love to do a pool. Do you think it'll hurt us for resale down the road? Thank you, Carolyn and Tom, for asking. So to be honest, since COVID, pools have been super popular, and we even saw one. They had a measuring tape at the property. So I actually measured, and their backyard was only 12.5 feet deep, and they had a pool, which is pretty crazy. But some people, sorry, I keep getting calls. They either love pools or they don't. I personally like pools, so I would be okay with it, whereas some people would hate that. There's probably no spot for their dog to go to the bathroom, etc. So there's no real, answer for that. There are still people that will buy it. There's the tiniest houses obviously out there and the tiniest pools. But as to say if it will truly affect your value, there's really no rhyme or reason. Long before COVID, some people liked pools, some people didn't. But since COVID, pools have skyrocketed, as I'm sure you're aware. So majority of people do like pools now. It just kind of depends on the cost and that kind of thing. But maybe you could just do a hot tub instead if you don't have that much room. I don't know. Hi, Rob. How are you? Hi, Scotty. Thank you guys for popping in. Hopefully you guys are enjoying no masks. If you have any questions, feel free to write them. Otherwise, I will just answer questions that have come in throughout the week, okay? All right. So that was Carolyn's question. So I do some happy news, by the way, before real estate, okay? So I don't obviously know, not obviously, it's not maybe obvious to some people, but I don't know all of my sports people kind of thing, but there is an NBA player, and I have to look at his name because it's not the easiest to pronounce. Bismack Biyombo. I don't know, Rob, do you know who that guy is? He was playing for the Phoenix Suns. He took a little bit of time off last year because his dad was not well, and his dad ended up passing away in August of last year. But the reason I was going to talk about him today is because from this Phoenix Suns, he got a $1.3 million paycheck for the year, and he put it all towards building a hospital in Congo, which is in Africa, Central Africa, if you're not aware. So I just love that. So before he even got this paycheck, he already had a foundation under his name, and he helps 185 kids every year with scholarships and 1,000 people every week through hospitals there and so forth. And he focuses on education for the scholarships as well as athletics and their health. So I just thought that was really cool that all of his salary literally goes back into, where he came from, because he says, yes, he's done well in the United States, but if he forgets where he came from, then, really what is the point? So I love that. And basically he just said, people there don't have basic medical needs and so forth. So he wants to give all of his salary all the time to that. So I really like that. So the next question comes from Kim in Barrie. So Kim in Barrie said, does it hurt to cancel and relist a listing? How many times is too many, and will it ever get to the point that it'll just never sell? Thank you, Kim, for asking. There's no specific number. A lot of people cancel and relist. So for example, we had a property, it was not listed with us, but listed with somebody else for 1.7. He had just bought it for $950. If he's watching right now, hello. It just sold yesterday, actually. So he bought it for $950. He listed it with somebody else for 1.7. Then he listed it with somebody else for 1.349. We listed it for $749. The value of it was around 1.1, to be honest. That's what the comparables were showing. He did get 1.1, didn't accept it. Then we canceled and relisted 1.175, and it sold 1.201, 340 or something like that. So we had lots of offers. Like the one time we had 5 offers, the other time we had 2 offers. But obviously the sellers don't have to take any offers unless they like them, right? So you can cancel and relist as many times as you like. It does stay in the system for 40 years, so realtors can see that. But the public can't see it unless you go. There's actually some apps that you can see it now. But so there's no set thing. I've seen sometimes it's listed literally like 8 times, and then it sells in the end. So he made a pretty profit. Again, 1.201, he just bought it for $950. So that was good. He didn't do anything. So the next thing, again, before I get to real estate, is that Denver is doing something new. So obviously when somewhere gets a call, say it's like a suicide or a drunk person or somebody with schizophrenia, maybe they're outside somebody's business and so forth, normally you call the police. So in Denver now they have these things and they're called STAR teams. So basically they have 6 vehicles so far and they're basically equipped. They have some paramedics in them, but more like therapists. So they send out people kind of to see more what's the issue, what's going wrong, etc., as opposed to just, arresting them or putting them in the hospital, etc. So they're saying that's freeing up time for the police officers so they can be at more things like robberies or domestic abuse, etc. So they have already helped over 10,000 people the first year, and they've never called for police backup, which is cool, and they're going to expand that into other cities starting this year. So I like that. Next question is from Paula in Newmarket. So Paula in Newmarket said, do you think with a lot of people going back to work in the city, there will be less demand for homes farther from the GTA and home offices? Thank you, Paula, for asking. So to be honest, it's unknown, right? I have heard obviously a lot of people going back 3 days a week or sometimes 5 days a week, etc. Some people are just saying, yeah, they're going back, but I've switched jobs because I don't want to go back. And I like my new life and I like my new house, etc. And my mortgage is cheaper than living in the city, so I don't need to make as much every month and so forth. Or they've realized like they like being home with their kids when they get off at 3:15 or whatever. They don't want to not see them till 7 o'clock at night and be stuck in traffic, etc. So a lot of people are just changing. Obviously, time will tell how many people go back. But I think a lot of people are just working from home or have reevaluate their lives. So I don't, to be honest, see that draw that suddenly, oh, nobody's moving to Barrie or nobody's moving to Oshawa or wherever they have moved to. But I mean, time will tell. I don't officially know. I've never worked downtown Toronto, so I can't really answer that exactly. But we have not seen that yet. And obviously lots of people could commuted before and there's trains multiple times a day. But I think more people are just going to work from home or have different jobs. Again, instead of having a $1.5 million mortgage for a townhome, they have, say, a $900,000 mortgage for a detached home. So they don't need to work as much and so forth. And they have a detached home instead of a townhome. Okay. Thank you for asking, though. Okay. Well, I think I have one more thing. Yeah, one more thing before real estate, okay? So a pawn shop owner in Connecticut, he needed some extra room for some new inventory. So he had a bunch of motorized scooters and he basically just said, hey, they're for free. I need more space in my shop. And he got like a crazy amount of inquiries and so forth. And a lot of people said they hadn't been out of their home in months. Some people said they hadn't been out of their home in years. So he ended up like basically starting this whole thing where he said, hey, if you have a scooter, it's in your basement, it's in your garage, it's not working, I don't care. Give it to me. I will fix it for free and then give it to people for free that are in need. And since he started doing this, he's given away 580 scooters, which is really cool. Helping people that, oftentimes they're about $4,000 and they're not covered by insurance. So he's helped that many people. So I just like when people help people. So that's that. So again, if you guys have any questions, feel free. Otherwise, I will jibber jab away. And now I'm going to do real estate stuff, okay? Okay. Hopefully you guys are all well. So what has been going on lately in the market is there's been a lot more sellers, okay? So some people have said, is it because of spring market and there's always more sellers, or is it, pent up energy, pent up demand, etc. from people the last 2 years that haven't wanted to sell during COVID? We don't know yet. It's too early. There's always more sellers this time of year because a lot of people want to close. Let's just say for July 1st, you can't close July 1st because it's a holiday, but the week before July 1st and the 2 weeks after is the busiest closing time of the entire year. So obviously a lot of people list around this time, April, May, etc. to get those kind of closing dates. Jibber jabber, whatever the word is, Scotty, you know what the word is. So what else was I going to say? Oh yeah. So I know like when we say there's a lot of sellers, a lot of people think like specifically first time buyers that have never owned, they're like, woohoo, there's more sellers and that means that the market's going to crash, etc. Does not mean the market is going to crash. Okay. We still have no inventory. More sellers sure is great. But again, it does happen this time of year on average. And to be honest, since the mid 2000s, since I have been in the business. So I'm sorry to say that. And obviously the interest rates are going up as well. So it goes up again April 13th. It went up on the 1st of March. It's supposed to go up 4 more times. So that will just affect people's buying power. But as I've said in past weeks, a lot of people were either locked in at a higher rate, so they're actually excited to get out of their current rate and get into the newer rate, even though it's 0.25% higher because it's less for them. Other people, say for example, they don't have a mortgage at all, so just shy of 30%, 29 point something percent don't even have a mortgage. And then the people that did lock in at that lower rate, they were approved at 2% higher stress test anyway. So even if it does go up and so forth, they're still safe. So we still have, again, tons of demand. Yes, there are more people coming on and listing their homes right now, but it is just that time of year. Okay. So what went up 80,000 from last year is Toronto homes, not from last year, from last month. So from February 2022, from January 2022, homes in Toronto went up over 80,000, and over year from February of last year, again, I know we're in March, but March is not over yet, so we don't have March statistics yet. March went up 354,000 from February 2022, from February 2021 in Toronto. Okay, I will do some local statistics and some faraway statistics because that's just how I roll. Vancouver prices jumped as well, but not as high as Toronto. So Toronto jumped again 35.9%. Vancouver is just over 20% at 20.8%. And they went up 226,000 from last year, the same month. Okay, so that has gone up. So if sellers continue to come in, not to say van loads, but in truckloads or what have you, if sellers continue to go up more than normal, then that could level the market, right? So currently we know the market does this. If there is a crazy amount of sellers more than normal, then it will start to do this. It's not going to do this, okay? It's impossible. The amount of people we have coming to, immigrating to Canada and so forth, the 400,000 plus, just baby boomers staying in their homes longer, not going into condos, not going into nursing homes, living longer, being healthier, etc. And then the amount of, what is my millennials? I'm like, what am I? Millennials. I'm right at the tail end of the millennials, but all the younger millennials being first-time home buyers age, which is just over a quarter of Canadians. So there's just way too many people still trying to get in the market. So that is still going to happen. But if, again, there are tons of sellers that come into the market, again, maybe because they have been sitting on the sidelines during COVID, they say it could ease things. And it also depends how much the rates go up. They have guessed the rates to go up 1.5% in the next 6 jumps, but it's still officially unknown. Okay, so they did a study shortly before Toronto beat Vancouver. I don't know if you guys listened 2 weeks ago when I said, so Toronto beat Vancouver for the first time ever for the average sales price. But right before they beat Vancouver, there was a study that was done saying the 3 most expensive places to live in the world. Hong Kong came in first, Sydney came in second, Vancouver came in third, and now obviously Toronto has beat that. So Toronto is the 3rd most expensive place to live in the world, even though they don't have the highest prices in Ontario right now, but I'll go over that later. And when I said that there were more people listing their homes right now, so there's 23.7% more people that listed their homes in February than January, but that is kind of just common, right? Like right after Christmas, you're not thinking about it. People don't want to move when there's 2 feet of snow. They're still like kind of adjusting after Christmas and so forth. So again, almost 24% more people listed their properties in February than January of this year, okay? Average houses across Canada, so not just Ontario, not just Toronto, we're up 20.6%, and that was over February this year over February of last year. And even though there has been more inventory lately, there has still been a 7-year decline of inventory, so a 7-year lack of inventory where we have too many people wanting to buy and not enough inventory, okay? The average price of a home in Canada is now over 811,000. 816, I could read my own writing, 816,000, which is up over 20% from last year. And the price of a detached home, I need a glass of water. The price of a detached home in Toronto is now over $2 million, okay? So, which is crazy for a detached home, $2 million. Do need water, 1 second. Sorry, I need to get water. Okay, so there's this gentleman, Cliff Stevenson, and he's from the Canadian Real Estate Association. And they did, what did they do? Oh yeah, I can't read my own writing or the lack of water to my brain. They did a recent survey that basically just said what I said earlier, that they don't know why there's so many more sellers lately, if it is the pent up of the 2 years from COVID, or if it is just the regular spring market. Again, almost 24% up, and I apologize for that part. And whether it was from all the COVID shenanigans, but they don't know. So that's the president of the Canadian Real Estate Association. Okay, so what are average prices more in Simcoe County? So this was last week. So Barrie, the average price was $953. Bradford was $1.169. Clearview was $1,079,000. Collingwood was $1,031,000. Essa was $1,012,000. Innisfil $1.112. Midland $697. For example, if anybody's ever watched before and Midland was saying 9 something to then go to 697, if people are like, oh, it dropped so much, it's just because it's not a very big community, and sometimes only 7 homes sell like in a week, right? So it's better to go off of a longer, like a month or something like that. So don't think they dropped 200,000, because I do remember it was 900 and change once when I told you guys. New Tecumseh, the average sales price was $1,090,000. Aurelia, $778,000. Oro, $1.297. Penetanguishene, $776,000, which also was in the 9s one time. So again, it's just because it's a smaller community and there might not be as many homes selling. Ramera was just over $1 million, $1,002,000, not 1.2, $1,002,000. Hi Justin, how are you? Hi Brad, hi Carrie, hi Mandy. I can't see who the rest are. Springwater, the average sales price was $1.428. In Tay Township, it was $948. Tiny was $886 and $857 in Wasaga. And then Simcoe as a whole, the average last week was $997,023. Okay, so we're really teetering close to $1 million for the average sales price, which is insane. So in February of 2021 in Simcoe County, the average sales price was $746, okay, and change. I don't say the change part. In 2022, the average sales price was $1,006,432. I did say the change part that time, but basically from $746 to $1,006,000, which is up 34.9%. Hi Sam, I'm well. How are you? In Barrie, February. Disregard. In Barrie, I'm knocking things over. In Barrie, February 2021, the average sales price was $708, and in 2022, it was $963. Okay, so from $708 to $963, so that is up 36%. So again, all of Simcoe County was 34.9%, and Barrie specifically was 36%. Okay. So homes, I think I've said this before, but basically homes have almost tripled in the last 10 years, which is crazy. And we're basically 1.2 million homes shy of even averaging out other G7 countries, okay? So what else? So many places are trying to, for example, tear down, say, 5 homes and build condos or block clusters or, high density, etc. But they're being faced with what a little saying is called is NIMBYism, which NIMBY stands for not in my backyard. NIMBY, not my backyard. So a lot of people are fighting like, hey, I've lived in this community for 65 years. It's always been single family homes. Like, we don't want a 6-story building, or we don't want this, or we don't want that. But the problem is that just shy of 70% of Toronto is zoned as single family or as semi-detached. So obviously the amount of people that live in Toronto and that can't afford Toronto, and then it's pushing, them out and the prices out, etc. So they're trying to basically cut the red tape so it's not as hard to build or to change things, say, for example, from commercial to residential. Let's just say people are saying, hey, we liked you guys working at home for the past 2 years. Let's stay you working at home, and let's change this building into a condo, or let's change this building into something. But they don't want to take 10 years to do it, because obviously that is not helping the lack of inventory that we have, okay? So some politicians are saying they want to squash, they call it the saving the neighborhood character, basically. It's not a clause, but some are saying they want to squash that, and others saying that, no, you have to stay strong, like this is a heritage building, etc. But some towns and municipalities have thousands and thousands of heritage buildings, so they're saying, how can we get growth? And then we're forcing people to go, 7 hours away, because everywhere too close has all of these heritage things. So that is something. Yeah, there's no earthquake, Scotty, just me and myself. What else? So there was a task force I have spoke about before. So it was started in November, and basically they want to change different things. So for example, if there's like some development, you can go as a single person, pay $400, and you can hold them up for years. So they're saying, hey, that shouldn't be allowed for one person to do that. And then they said, even if it is, they think it should be a $10,000, hey, I want to, question this or do that, not $400. So that's something. They also want to have, if the person is building, say a multiplex, and there's at least 30% that will be for subsidized housing or low income housing, they don't think that they are allowed or should be allowed to say, hey, we don't think they should build this or what have you. They're like, hey, we're giving, back and saying this amount is available for low income people. So they don't think that they should be able to hold them up for a few years and appeal them. Okay. So that has not happened yet, but that's what the task force is trying for. They're also trying to allow that homes can be made into 4 units without going through anything like saying, hey, you need this approval, you need this zoning. This is in Toronto, by the way. They also want to be able to allow secondary suites. They want to be able to allow laneway suites, which is like basically, I grew up in Hamilton, so there's back alleys and there's like garages. So they want to be able to be like, hey, this is the back alley. I can put a unit here or what have you. And they also want to allow switching commercial to residential to not have, again, all the red tape, just to help fast track getting more inventory, and just so we don't have the lack of inventory and, again, the skyrocketing prices. I feel like I'm talking a million miles a minute today. The task force also wants to allow unlimited height restrictions around subways, etc. So they don't want it, hey, it's a 15, let's just say it's all 15 stories around it. They want to be able to, around a certain circumference around, say, a GO station or what have you, they want unlimited. It could be 90 stories, it could be whatever. So they're trying to fight for that. Again, that hasn't happened yet, but that is a task force that started, was put together in November of last year. So I said that, Toronto now has a price point of over $2 million for detached homes, and where else has a high price point? So according to the Canadian Real Estate Association and Oxford Economics, other high price points, considering the amount that people make per year, etc. Barrie actually came in number 1. London came in number 2, followed by Kitchener and Waterloo, which are obviously super close to London. Then came Kingston, then Hamilton, then Ottawa, then Burlington, then Oakville, and then rounding out that list was Mississauga. So those are all expensive places to live. Right now, what are interest rates? CIBC is sitting at 1.99, and TD and RBC are at 2.05. And then the lowest I could find anywhere was 1.29 variable and 2.84 fixed. So those are the rates right now. So if we look at just Ontario, so I've done like kind of local, Toronto and all of Canada. I haven't done just Ontario. So if we look at just Ontario, the average home is now over $1,086,000 in all of Ontario. If you take out Toronto, it drops by $175,000 just because obviously Toronto has high prices, but that is still up over $222,000 over last year the same time, okay? Because last year was $863,000, okay? Now it's $1,086,000. Which is crazy. Again, that is all of Ontario. What else was I going to say? It's also the first time in Ontario that the average price has ever been over $1 million, which is crazy. Other places that have had averages over $1 million in February were Toronto, well, obviously Toronto, Hamilton, Mississauga, Brampton. They all had averages over $1 million. In Toronto in February, the average price was 1.210 and change, and in the GTA it was 1.334. In Brampton it was 1.346. In Mississauga 1.225. In Hamilton, which is crazy to me, $1,013,000. In Ottawa it was 752, and in London it was 825. So I feel like a bunch of people are going to move to Ottawa and London right now. 752 and 825. Hi Jasmine, how are you? Hi Scott, thank you for jumping on. And now if we go by style, again, I jump around all the time. Last 2 weeks ago, I did Barrie by style and Simcoe by style. So now I'm going to do Toronto by style. So Toronto by style, what I mean is like detached, semi-detached, etc. So in Toronto in February, I know we're in March, but March is not done yet, so we don't have stats for that. But in Toronto in February for a detached home, the average price was $2,073,000 and change. which was up over 23%. Then the average semi-detached home in Toronto was $1,049,000 in change, which was up 13%. The average townhome was 1.416 in Toronto, which was up 23%. And the average condo was 822, which was up 21%. They do have, that's condo, that could count a townhome or what have you. But then when they say just apartment, which is weird to me, it's 976, because I feel like apartment ones should be less than ones that are homes, but don't ask me why. They said it's 976, which was up 19%. Okay. Next question is from Jill and Becky and Barry. So Jill and Becky said, how do you go about selling a property that has a legal license to grow marijuana? Thank you, Jill and Becky, for asking. So what people normally do when they sell a property like that is, one, there's a disclosure. So there's a private remarks for realtors where it can say, you know, please call listing agent before booking showing, or it could just be, please see Schedule C, and it could say, you know, 123 Main Street is legally allowed to sell marijuana in 25% of the dwelling space, blah, 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 with proper ventilation, etc. Normally that room doesn't have pictures on it on MLS, and sometimes that room is even locked. And then it says, you know, all offers are subject to one showing of the room or something like that, because they don't really want everybody going in that room, which makes sense. So yeah, they can just be listed regularly again, and then the private remarks that says about it. And oftentimes they don't let people into that room unless they have an accepted offer. Sometimes they'll have pictures of the room beforehand or pictures of the room of what it looks like, but just on the outside. So just people aren't going in and out, etc. But thank you for asking. Now I'm back into my happy news stuff. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. So we've all heard of jaundice babies, but I didn't know, maybe you guys knew, that it can cause damage to them and they can die. Again, I didn't know that. But a lady in Nigeria, her son almost died, but he did not die. He lived, and anyway, she was a designer, not of like crazy hospital things. But after that happened with her son, it just scared her, and she thought, like, what if there was other people? Because in Africa, again, she's in Nigeria, there's lots of places that either one, don't have electricity, or two, don't have hospitals, or both, or what have you. So she ended up making these little cribs that, to me, honestly look like something, I know it sounds bad, but it looks like that an iguana would be in, or do you know what I mean? Like a little glassed in thing. And it is completely solar powered, and like this blue light therapy that's good for the babies. And it costs 1/6 the cost of what other ones cost. I guess they're called phototherapy cribs. I didn't know that. And they're in over 500 hospitals now throughout Africa, which I just thought was really cool, just because, you know, it just happened because of her son. So she's helped over 300,000 babies that had jaundice because of her son having it. So I thought that was cute. Next question comes from Ben in Collingwood. So Ben in Collingwood said, we have an apartment above our garage. Should we give the couple notice now to move because we're going to sell? Do you think it's better to sell it vacant or tenanted? Thank you, Ben, for asking. So to be honest, you can't actually kick them out. You could say, hey, we're thinking of selling, blah, blah. And if they're like, oh, okay, that sucks. Like, yeah, we were thinking of moving anyways. We're going to go stay at my mom's and save some money. But you can't legally force them out. So the only way you can legally force them out is, one, you don't have a year lease. So if you have a year lease with them, they are allowed to stay for that whole year. If you have a 2-year or 3-year, etc. It doesn't matter if a new person moves in. It doesn't matter if the new person says, hey, I'm moving in, my family member is moving in, my brother, my caretaker, etc. If they have a year lease, you can't get them out. But if they do not have a year lease, and those people that I said, you know, the person moving in, the owner, the caretaker, or the sibling or whatever, there's some things that list like 6 people that can be allowed in family. Can't be like your third cousin twice removed or something like that. It does have to be immediate family members, but it'll be from the 1st of a month. So today, I don't even know the date, but let's just say it's the 23rd, I think, of March. So it would go to April 1st. So it doesn't count from the 23rd of March. It would go to April 1st. So they'd have 60 days. So all of April, all of May, assuming that there's 30 days in both. But, you know, obviously I'm saying because, say, some have 31, February has 28. But basically it has to have 60 days. So you have to give them 60 days notice. But that's from an accepted agreement of purchase and sale, not just because you want to list your house for sale. Okay? That was a long answer. But as for showing it vacant or tenanted, again, depends, one, if you can get them out, and that's only if they're messy. So if they're messy and you try to get them out, again, you have to go through all those rules. But there's no issue with showing it, you know, with a tenant. It's fine. Lots of people are used to it. They're not expecting it to be all staged and pretty and perfect, etc., because they know it's a tenant, and they might like that there's already a tenant, right? So if it is legal they can use half of that money that comes in towards their mortgage. If it's not legal, they can't. So if you rent it for $2,000, they can use $1,000 of that towards their mortgage and their debt to service ratio. But again, if it's not legal, they cannot use it. What else was I going to say? Yeah, and some people like it just because it's ready to go and they don't have to find a tenant, put an ad on, you know, check their credit, etc. Some people like it, whereas some people don't because they're like, hey, my sister needs to live above there, or my mom was going to live up there, or what have you. So everybody's different. There's no set answer, but I appreciate you asking, and hopefully that answered a bunch for you. What else? Obviously, lots of people have been helping with Ukraine and everything going on there. So there are lots of Polish mothers. I'm sure you've seen on TV or online. They're basically lining the train stations with carriages and toys and diapers and that kind of thing. Also, there has been, dog food companies, and they, for example, the one is taking over 300 bags of dog and cat food over the borders every single week. Then there is a no-kill shelter, for example. This 32-year-old vet, he keeps going over once a week and bringing back animals. So he's brought over 200 cats and 60 dogs and 1 goat back over, a goat. Then there's been some famous people, so like Ashton Kutcher and Mina, they've given $3 million, and Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds gave $1 million. So people are doing lots and helping. And then in the first 24 hours on Airbnb, 61,000 people booked to stay in Ukraine, which is great because obviously they're not actually going there, just to help out families. And since then, 434,000 people have booked, and that's over $15 million in people's booked stays when obviously they're not actually going there. And then there's other side, not pluses, but extra donations people have given. So there's over 16 million. So again, I always like happy stuff. Next question is from Janice and Oro. So Janice and Oro said, I know the market's crazy, but I've heard it's not as crazy lately. Is there any truth behind that? Thank you, Janice, for asking. So yeah, March 1st, the interest rate went up that 0.25, and then obviously the war and stuff going on with Ukraine and Russia. So things have quieted a bit. It's not like, you can hear a needle drop or a pin drop or what have you, or crickets. It's just things are a little bit different. So let's just say, for example, we listed a home for $799, expecting to get around $1 million. The highest offer we got was $950. We canceled and relisted it for $999, and then it sold for $1,024,000. So there's always, it's just adjustments. You just change it. Some people are just listing closer to what they want. Say they want 900. They're not listing anymore at, $699 to get 900. They're listing at $919, or they're listing at $899 or what have you. So things are just changing a little bit like that. And as more inventory comes on, yes, the sellers are having, more competition. So they might have to touch up a couple things or what have you, that maybe before they didn't have to, but still it's not swayed, to a balanced market or a buyer's market by any means. It's still a seller's market. Okay. But thank you for asking. Oh yeah. So obviously things are reopening again and so forth. There is a company in Scotland, and long before COVID, they basically, any senior or anybody with mobility issues, they would pick up in like this tricycle. You've probably seen them like outside, maybe the Sky Dome or whatever. It's not called the Sky Dome anymore. But, a person rides the bike at the back and pushes you around at the front. So they have those there, and they have over 3,700 of them now. They started with one, obviously. They have over 3,700. They just ride people around for free, and everybody that pedals them is volunteered. So I just like it because it gets people out and gets people seeing the scenery, and of course, because lots of people are lonely, even before COVID and since COVID, so I just like that. But anyways, I hope you guys have a beautiful evening. Stay true to yourselves, go after your dreams, and thank you for popping in.